hunt for the Australian opener. I don't think we're too much the wiser. There's been plenty of opportunities afforded in that game against India, Marty, and probably outside of McSweeney, none of the others have really put their hand up, and he's not a natural opener. So I don't know that they're any further advanced than what they potentially were at the start of this particular fixture.
Well, he's 47 not out, McSweeney, after making 39. Constas 0 and 16. Harris 17 and 36. Bancroft 0 and 16. So those three, no one putting their hand up there.
No, and Constas, the way he got out, it was just putrid.
Yes.
If you're looking to force your way into an opening position, the worst possible way to get rolled over is to just leave one outside off dolly and then just turn around and see the off-stick cartwheeling, and it was a really messy dismissal and shouldn't go on that, but there is part of the psyche of a cricket selector that wants their opening batsman to be rock solid, and that is a dismissal mode that you just don't like seeing. It's even if he'd necessarily, if it, as it turned out, he was clean bowled, but even if it was hitting him on the pad and Plum LB not playing a shot, it's that mindset that, he's not comfortable leaving against this quality of attack, and that'll be up against him. Now, McSweeney, by all reports, is very open to a move up the order. He bats 3 most of the time, and his logic behind it is, well, I come in with no scarring. I also come in with a mindset that there's a lot of games that I play that we're 1 for none and I'm in the first over anyway. And he has played a very circumspect role in both innings of this match, and that's not necessarily his go-to style of batting generally. He's normally quite aggressive and can really take to an attack, but I think it just shows you how much he really wants his spot. He's adapted his game. He showed that he's durable enough to dig in on a tough wicket, and he's been really good again here in the second innings. I didn't have him probably in the top 3 at the start of this summer to come into the side, but he is starting to win me over. I've been very impressed with what we've seen in this game, and his last 18 months, his body of work when you go through it has been very impressive.
Yeah, and I mentioned him last week because I heard Ken Peace talking about him. And then I went back through his record this year: 55, 127 not out, 37, 72 and 137. So, and that's before this match against India A. He's captain of that side as well, so he must show a lot of maturity as a younger player to be captain of the team going in. I love what you said about him because I wasn't too sure how he plays his games, but to change a game in accordance with how the wicket was playing and how the situation of the game was, to go back and play that stoic role, says a lot about the kid.
It does, and a lot of people can't do that. Most people have got one mode, and that's how we play, and we play like that regardless of the conditions. A good player can adapt to what the situation is, and if they have to guts it out for 3 or 4 hours to get a score, they'll do that. And he's done that and shown that he can do that in this particular match. So I've been really impressed with him to this point. And unfortunately, if you're, from a WA perspective, Cam Bancroft has made all the runs over the last couple of years. But right now, when that door's been open, it's been a rotten start to the season for him.
To me, it says something about these 3, Constas, Harris, Bancroft, where you've got it in front of you. It's up to you to grab it with both hands, and all 3 can't, where you've got somebody down here in McSweeney says, well, I do. I want it.
Big time.
I want to be in there.
And I hope that the selectors reward that, because if you're a selector, there's number one priority, picking the player that's in form, and don't wait until they've got 1,000 runs and then they may be on the decline and they're out of form. Put them in while they're going well and they've got confidence up.
Plenty to talk about and talk to on today's program, and we've got Simon Hill, Jamie Marsh, Racetrack Ralphy and Darren Flindell. Really looking forward to catching up with the Sydney broadcaster, filling in, of course, for Chris Nelson to review that massive meeting out at Rosehill. And then in the second hour, Brad Hardie, Andrew Gluyas, Greg Bond, and in the final hour on Racing Rewind, Chris Parnham. But our opening batsman, I love him up there at number 1. Simon Hill joins us this morning. A very good morning, Simon.
It's the first time I've been an opening batsman, let me tell you that. I was normally number 10 or 11.
I will switch it around. You can play night watchman, but first thing in the morning. And if you swing hard enough, Simon, they tell me the ball goes a lot quicker and harder, nice and early against that new nut. So we'll see how you go for this morning. But a very, very busy night of Premier League action.
Tread warily. Tread warily.
Yes. I'll try and hold my end up.
He knows where I'm coming from here, doesn't he? Bournemouth 2, Man City 1. What is going on here, Simon?
Well, look, to be honest, I think that result's been coming for a few weeks. City have managed to get out of jail against the likes of Wolves and Fulham, but I think this was just a step too far. Look, they've got a couple of injuries, in fairness, but they were second best, I think, against Bournemouth, and again they threatened to grab at least a point at the death, but they had a goal ruled out by VAR. One hit the post. But Bournemouth deserved their win, first ever win over Man City at their 22nd attempt.
Is that right?
Antoine Semenyo and Evan Nilsson with two very well-taken goals. Josko Gvardiol, who seems to be, apart from Erling Haaland, the only City player who can score at the moment, gave us hope. But, yeah, not a good week for my boys. We lost in the Carabao Cup at Spurs as well during the week. And Bournemouth are flying at the moment. Drew against Aston Villa, beat Arsenal, of course, at home. It's a tough place to go, the Vitality. So City off the top of the league, but early days yet.
Indeed. Good result for Newcastle defeating Arsenal 1-0 there at St James.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal having a similar sort of problem to Man City at the moment. They've got a few injuries. They're particularly missing Martin Odegaard, I think. He provides them with a lot of their creativity, and they had only one shot on target in the entire 90 minutes at St James's Park. Alexander Isak with a beautiful header, the only goal of the game on 12 minutes. Newcastle have had a good recovery after a bit of a wobble, beat Chelsea in the Carabao Cup during the week, and they now climb up to ninth. Arsenal just fall away a little bit again in the title race, and it looks as though it's between three teams, Arsenal, City and Liverpool, and in that regard, a very good weekend for Liverpool.
Leicester left it very late to get a point against Ipswich Town at 1-1.
Yeah, I've got to feel sorry a bit for Ipswich. They've been so close to getting this first win back in the top flight after promotion from the Championship on one or two occasions, but they just can't quite get over the line. This goal came in the 94th minute from Jordan Ayew to deny the Tractor Boys that 3 points. Leif Davis had scored earlier on, but Calvin Phillips was sent off on 77 minutes for Ipswich, and that made it a nervy last 13 minutes. And here's an interesting stat for you. Ipswich have now dropped 12 points from winning positions in Premier League matches this season. That's one of the reasons why they're in the bottom three. But credit to Leicester, who kept going. Jordan Ayew has made a bit of a habit of scoring late goals for them, and he did so again last night. And as an aside, good to see WA products Cameron Burgess get some game time in the Premier League. He's not had much this season, but he played against Leicester yesterday, which is great to see from an Australian point of view.
Absolutely. From right here in WA, it's always great to see these young athletes getting opportunities on the big stage. Onto the Liverpool clash. They were 2-1 winners over Brighton. They had to wait until sort of late in the second half, though, to get the job done here, Simon.
Yeah, it looked for a long time as though all three of the top teams were going to lose because they trailed Brighton until well into the second half. Ferdi Kadiolu with a terrific strike in off the post. And Brighton were actually good value for that in the first half. But Liverpool came back, attacking the cop end in the second half. Cody Gakpo with a sort of a cross-come shot, really. I don't think he meant to find the back of the net, but he'd be glad that he did. And then Mo Salah with a typically brilliant strike with his left peg. So Liverpool now won 13 of their 15 matches in all competitions under Arne Slot. And as mentioned, the defeats for Arsenal and Manchester City means that Liverpool go back to the top of the table. But as I've also said, still a long way to go. Don't go printing those T-shirts just yet, Liverpool fans, as they normally do.
A team that has started the season off in amazing form is Notts Forest 3. They beat West Ham 0.
Yeah, Forest are having a great start. And again, talking of this part of the world, New Zealander Chris Wood is having the season of his life. He scored again in a 3-0 win over West Ham. Callum Hudson-Odoi and Ola Aina, again with goals. Edson Alvarez also sent off for West Ham on the cusp of half-time, which made it difficult for the Hammers. But that's 3 wins in a row for Forest for the first time since 1999 in the Premier League. Chris Wood has 8 goals for the season. Only Erling Haaland has more in the Premier League. So Forest up to third on the table, which is remarkable, really. They were battling against the drop for most of the last season. Conversely, the pressure back on Ulam Lopetegui, the West Ham manager, after this result. They beat Manchester United 2-1 last week, but this was their fifth loss in 10 matches, and they're conceding far too many goals, 19 in total now.
Simon, for them to have 10 games, 5 wins, 4 draws, only 1 loss to this point of the season, Nottingham Forest, what can we put it down to between last season and this season that has really sparked them up and got them going? And it really leaves them in a great spot. Like you say, given the pressure that they were under for a big portion of last season, to be 10 games in and have 19 points on the board already, it surely just frees things up a little bit for the remainder of the season for this side.
Yeah, it does. And look, it's both ends of the park, to be honest. I mean, Chris Wood's goals have certainly helped. I mentioned he's got 8. They've only scored 14, so he's got the majority of them. But defensively, they've been very, very sound. They're beautifully organised under Nuno Espirito Santo. You might remember was a coach or manager of Tottenham for a little while without much success. They've only conceded 7 in those 10 games so far this season. That's the second best record in the Premier League behind Liverpool, who've conceded 6. So, he's done wonders for the club at both ends of the pitch. And, they've had a few draws as well, 4 out of the 10. But, they've made a very good start. That's all it is at the moment. There's a long winter ahead. But, they'll be very pleased at the moment.
Southampton grabbed a very valuable 3 points in their encounter up against Everton there at St Mary's Stadium overnight. Their first win for the season in the 85th minute. Adam Armstrong able to get one into the back of the onion bag here, Simon. And this is another big result for a team that had been battling to start the year off.
Yeah, and if you saw the celebrations at the full-time whistle, their manager, Russell Martin, and his coaching staff, it was like they'd won the Premier League, which is understandable. You need to get a win on the board. The longer that wait goes on, and Ipswich are experiencing that at the moment, the more tense it becomes because, the relegation battle starts to hove into view. So that they'll be delighted to have finally got that 3 points. And strangely enough, it came only 25 seconds after Everton had hit the crossbar through Beto that Saints broke and got up the other end, and Armstrong tucked away what proved to be the winner. They had a bit of a late worry as well with the same player, Beto, scoring in the 89th minute, but VAR ruled that out. So that's a massive win for Southampton. It takes them off the bottom of the table. They're still in the bottom 3. But I think psychologically that's a big relief for them to get that 3 points. And by the way, that's the end of Everton's 5-match unbeaten run as well.
Indeed, and the final game, the Wolves 2-2 up against Crystal Palace. Two sides that are certainly towards the bottom end of town. Wolves yet to win a game, but they'll take the point out of that one. And Crystal Palace surprised victors there last week, able to get a point out of this one, but they probably would have been a little disappointed. You'd have thought that they'd be going into a game like this off that performance last week with a bit of confidence, but they had to be content with just the 1 point out of the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could have been worse, to be honest. Palace had taken the lead, Trevor Chalobah, but within 12 minutes, they were 2-1 down. Jakob Strand-Larsen and Joao Gomez turning things around for Wolves. Mark Gay, the England international defender who played so well at the Euros earlier on this year, earning Palace a point. They actually thought they'd won it in the 96th minute, but a goal was ruled out for a foul on Jose Sarr. It's not a bad week for Palace, to be honest, after an awful start to the campaign under their new manager, Oliver Glasner. They won at Spurs, of course, last time out, and then they beat Aston Villa to reach the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. So I think they'll take a point. And, you know, we mentioned that wait for a win. Wolves are still waiting. 10 matches in. It's their worst start to a season. And Southampton's victory means that they are bottom of the table now.
Indeed. Let's have a look at the action over the next little patch. Tottenham taking on Aston Villa tonight, 10 p.m. kickoff, $1.87. Tottenham, the draw $4, Aston Villa $3.70. The later game there sees Man United $2.63, the draw $3.60, Chelsea $2.55, and we rounded out with Fulham $2.02. The draw $3.70 and Brentford at $3.45. How do you see the three remaining games from the EPL over the next little bit here, Simon?
Well, to be honest, these three games are mighty difficult to predict, and I'll explain why. I mean, Spurs against Villa is a fixture, really, that probably has top four battle written all over it. And Spurs, as we know, under Ange, they're a bit up and down. They've had a mixed week. They beat Manchester City in the League Cup during the week, but of course lost last weekend to Crystal Palace. They're without Mickey van der Ven, who's so important for them, particularly with his pace at the back. He's out with a hamstring problem. And Villa have got a big goal threat. Ollie Watkins, John Duran, more than capable of going to White Hart Lane and scoring. And Villa have lost only one of the last 13 in London. So I certainly think there's value in at least a draw, maybe even a Villa win. I don't know, but I certainly think that one's worth a punt at a draw at the very least. Similarly, Manchester United against Chelsea. Of course, United will be looking for new manager bounce. They've appointed Ruben Amorim, even though he's not actually in charge for the next three games. Ruud van Nistelrooy will continue, but the players will be out to impress the new coach. They're unbeaten in their last 11 home matches against Chelsea, but this is the most drawn fixture in Premier League history. So I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up the same way. Chelsea are more than capable of going up to Old Trafford and getting something out of the game, particularly with Cole Palmer in such good form. And likewise, the West London derby between Fulham and Brentford, 10th against 9th. Fulham going okay, but they've dropped 10 points from winning positions. And Brentford, of course, are the great entertainers, won 4-3 against Ipswich last weekend and then went all the way to penalties before beating Sheffield Wednesday in the Carabao Cup midweek. So, I mean, it's toss of a coin, really, with all three of those games. But I wouldn't be surprised if Brentford won at Craven Cottage. I'd take a draw between Manchester United and Chelsea and maybe the same between Tottenham and Villa.
A-League and Perth Glory managed to get a point away to Central Coast Mariners 0-0 yesterday, Simon.
Yeah, that's a good result for Perth. First point of the season. They battled well. Obviously, we know it's a new team under David Strelic. They only had 33% possession. They also survived a big call for a penalty. Well, it actually was initially awarded as a penalty for handball against Lewis Kanga, but VAR overturned that upon review. It did look as though he was trying to pull his arm away and maybe hit the top of the arm rather than below the sleeve, which is the rule. It wasn't a particularly entertaining game to watch, but to be honest, I think Perth will take that. They normally struggle on the road. We've mentioned that before in previous shows, and maybe they can use that as a springboard for the rest of their season.
Simon, we saw the first of what I'm sure will be epic encounters and crosstown showdowns over there in New Zealand. Wellington taking on Auckland, and Auckland maintained their excellent start to the season in front of 26,000 people there. They waited till late, the 89th and then the 96th minute. Brimmer was the hero for Auckland FC. But this is great for the A-League, I must say. Anytime we see the crosstown derbies, they are special. And now New Zealand have got their own, and haven't the fans really warmed to it over there?
They've loved it. And I don't know if you've seen the banter overnight between the two clubs. Auckland have paid for a big sign to be put up over one of the freeways in Wellington, and it says, "Welcome to Ellington," in brackets, "We've taken the W back to Auckland," which I just thought was absolutely brutal. Brilliant.
That's quality marketing right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. I enjoyed it. Look, it was a typically tight and tense derby. You know, it wasn't the best game, to be honest. And really swung on an error by the Phoenix goalkeeper, Josh Oluwayemi, with only minutes to go, giving the ball straight to Jake Brimmer. So, yeah, Auckland top of the shop, 3 wins out of 3 clean sheets. They've got fans flocking to their games. Absolutely brilliant. Long may it continue.
Magnificent. 2 games today. Melbourne victory 161, draw 440, Macarthur FC 470, and then Western United 340, the draw 375, Melbourne City 198. How do these final 2 games unfold?
I certainly see that a draw would be the favoured result between Western United and Melbourne City. It's a derby of such, only a short hop down the road, of course, to Tarneet for Melbourne City. They'll be looking for a response after losing the derby, where they were really blown away in the first half against Victory last week. Western got a point against the Wanderers, a strong second half showing, so I think that one might end up all square. I think Victory will beat MacArthur today. They're looking for revenge, of course, after losing the Australia Cup final to the same opponents at the same venue just a month or so ago, and MacArthur was stunned against Newcastle last week. Victory looked good. I like their front four, Valupale, Mashash, Piscopo or Arzani, and Burgos stroke Fornaroli. So I think Victory will be too strong at Amy today.
Magnificent, Simon. You've certainly dodged the bullet there against the new ball. Still there at lunchtime. Thank you as always for your time. Enjoy your Sunday.
One not out. That's my top score.
Good work. Thank you, Simon.
Racing now. First away, Aussie Gem with Sneaky Pint, Liberty Star. West on Blossom made ground the inside. Chef's Kiss needs a bit of room. Last on the fence, Min Smiley. Aussie Gem ran wide but leads 3/4. Liberty Star 4 lengths away, Min Smiley. And then West on Blossom. Aussie Gem fans wide. Liberty Star, Min Smiley flashing home. They go to the line and Aussie Gem gets it done over Liberty Star. Third close.
There we have it. The second leg of a winning double on Friday night for Jamie Marsh. He's been good enough to join us this morning on the Aftermath. Good morning to you, Jamie. David Shortte and Marty Young with you. How do we find you on this Sunday morning?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Race 6 last night, so home earlier than normal and in bed early. So, yeah, not too bad in fairness.
Very nice. So, a good result there on Friday night with the double, with two greyhounds that would certainly lay claims to being as consistent as any dogs going around in the state right at the minute.
Yeah, just what Fuzz needed, more money to chase his dream that he thinks he's going to be an Australian cricketer again. So, they are. They're terribly consistent. I'm not too sure that they're dogs that are going to go too high up into grades. I don't think that they're going to go and set the track on fire by any stretch time-wise or anything like that. But you can't knock them. They show up week in, week out, and they're just really good, genuine chasers. So, wrapped with how they're going through the grades and ticking along.
Of course, they are litter mates by Aussie Infrared out of Fab's Gem, a bitch that yourself and Anthony Barranca raced with really good success going back a couple of years ago now. But like you say, they're not breaking the clock. They don't run, 530 metres or anything like that. But, gee, they're dogs that you just love to own because you know they're going to race week in, week out. And Aussie Gem's stats really do speak volumes of just how reliable the dog's been to this point. 15 starts, 4 wins, 7 seconds and 3/3. And, I mean, to miss the top 3 once in your lifetime, the only time it missed it ran 4th and wasn't too far behind at all. And Infrared Gem, very, very similar. 9 starts for the couple of wins and also a further 6 placings. So they just turn up and get the job done. They've got good early pace. They make their own luck.
Yeah, that's it, Shorty. I think that you'll find, especially with Aussie Gem, as she sort of goes up in the grade and that habit to roll off on a bend will probably cost her. As she gets up in higher grades, the better dogs will probably rail up underneath her and take races from her. But that's nothing that you're never going to change. I mean, the other one in the litter as well is our Aussie Salute, who I think's won 2 races and over $20,000 and's run a stack of placings up at Northam as well over the 509. So the whole litter just seemed to be just like you say, great chasers that aren't blessed with the hugest amounts of ability, but just their ability to show up and stay sound and begin. I think that's another main thing, is that they're all just really good beginners and put themselves into the race most starts.
Yeah, they both began well. They both led, but I thought they both showed a bit of intestinal fortitude too. When it mattered in the straight, they were both challenged and fought them off.
Yeah, I don't know if that comes from the Aussie Infrared. I haven't had too many or what it does. I mean, she was a wonderful chaser, the mother. She won a birthday cup and things like that. So, I mean, they're superbly bred dogs. And yeah, I think that you're spot on. I just think that their ability to show chase and put in every week is why they're ticking so many boxes and just chipping along with the prize money nicely.
Jamie, as you'd be well aware, we're celebrating 50 years of greyhound racing here in Western Australia at the moment, and you'd be no doubt aware of some of the different radio ads and things that have been going on. And I'm sure you're incredibly proud. You're very, very talented sprinter. Elite Machine is one of the greyhounds that's being thrown around in relation to being in contention for one of the top 10 sprinters in the history of the sport here in Western Australia. There's, of course, a big gala event coming up on Sunday, the 8th of December there at Cannington to celebrate the 50 years of chasing in this state. If I'd have told you when you got into the sport that you'd have a dog that's contending to be one of the all-time best sprinters of all time in the sport, I'm sure you would have been looking at me thinking that I'm maybe on a different planet, but it's where you sit right now. You must be really, really proud of what this dog did for you.
Yeah, it just changed my life, Shorty, and sort of went into that year thinking, geez, there's not much in the shed, and it's probably going to be a quiet one and batten down the hatches and not spend a whole pile of money. And and then he came along and everything just changed. We've since bought 5 acres out in Mandurah next to the Chili Man, and starting to rear a couple of litters for Fuzz, and for him. And all credit goes purely 100% to him. There's no doubt in my mind that without him, I wouldn't be in the position that I am. He's still rolling around the property here. He's in the kennels carrying on at the moment. I can hear him in the background. I can't give that dog credit enough. And he was an absolute star for us for that whole year, going to Brisbane and winning that and everything like that. And it's just, it was just a life changer and a wonderful 12 months to go and travel and go to Melbourne and for the Top Gun and be a part of that. And it's stuff that you sort of never really dream of. And I look at him in amazement every day.
Absolutely. You go and give Nigel a pat for us. He's looking after you post racing very well by the sound of things as well. Jamie, appreciate your time this morning here on the Aftermath. Continued success with this litter, and we'll chat to you again soon here on TAB Radio. Go well.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for your time.
Blah, blah, blah. Let Marty Young and David Shortte do all the talking on the Aftermath. Sunday morning at its best on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Yes, keep those texts coming in on that Retrovision text line 0427 789 571. We will address them between 7 and 8 o'clock. Plenty to get through there, but we want to talk racing. First day of the Flemington Carnival yesterday. And Racetrack Ralphy's our man to talk about it. Good morning, Ralphy.
Greetings from the Bahamas, boys. I took a multi a couple of weeks back of the Cox Plate winner would do 3 laps of Moonee Valley before winning into the Jockey of the Derby winner having a broken nose.
So I was just saying off air, Ralphie, what a tough cookie Jamie Carr is. My goodness, there would have been many other riders that would have tapped themselves out just about for the day from there, but she just says, let's get on with business. I've got some quality mounts to take, and wow, what a stunning ride it proved to be, taking out the Derby there. She was really, really brave early on in this race, rolled the dice, found a spot, and in the end, it was the winning manoeuvre for Gold Rush Guru. This was a tremendous win, and I'm sure most of the state across there in South Australia would have been screaming the place down.
Yeah, 100%. It reminded me, I don't know if you're a Blazing Saddles fan, but when Mongo, they said, don't shoot him, it'll just make him angry. So she got the blunt nose and then just said, yep, beauty, I'll take that on board. Cracking ride, as you said. Look, the way I read it at that turn out of the straight, there were a couple of horses that were going to be caught wide, and they had a choice. Roll the dice and risk being planted, or go back, find cover and not win. And I think Jamie took the first option with Gold Rush Guru, and Josh Parr took the latter option with El Costello. And that's not necessarily being critical of Josh Parr. I mean, he probably played the percentages, but the percentages didn't come off. And Jamie was bold enough to prepared to lose to win. And as you said, slotted in. How she got to 1-1, don't know, but she did. And then from there, that it became, she was in just the A1 spot. I don't think necessarily there are any stars out of the race, but time will tell. They can keep improving as stayers, but the no doubt every credit is entitled to there. Scary. I think I said a couple of times. I think it's got something there, this horse, and it maybe just switched off a couple of times. But it was in the market in that race that Keeneland and Red Aces won, and that day the rail was out a long way, which didn't help the swoopers, and yesterday he got his chance to show what he is. So I think in time he'll be a good talent. But certainly El Costello, I don't change my mind that he's the best horse going in there, but under that circumstance yesterday, he couldn't have won.
What about the Group 1 Coolmore Stud Stakes? Is Chris Waller any good at training the winner of this? I think that was number 6, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, I kept thinking before the race, what am I missing with what it did in the Roman Consul, and why we got this wrong, but we didn't get it wrong. And so he's exploded this horse. He would have gone close, if not won the Everest on this time. Vince Carty's data's now through, so courtesy of Daily Sectionals. And that's what gave us a lot of confidence leading into the race, how good that Roman Consul win was. But then it's gone again. So just a huge performance. I think we've got the next star of Australian sprinting. So unfortunately for us punters and followers, not breeders, he's a colt. So I don't think he'll be running into his 4-year-old season. Be delighted if he was, but that's how good that performance was. He's a genuine, absolute up-and-coming superstar. Bellatrix has run to her best. Growing Empire, probably, peaked on his run, but how many times punters are a funny lot, aren't they? Because, the Everest into the Coolmore is not a winning move. Continuously, it shows that it takes a lot out of horses, and this year it was a bit of a slow-tempo Everest, but still, it had to take on the older horses. It's been up for a while, where Switzerland was a horse on the up. I think we can now safely say the Lady of Camelot hasn't progressed from her 2-year-old days. She's going okay. I think Gatsby might have a good win in it. But Switzerland, no doubt, this is the next star of Australian sprinting.
The other of the Group 1s, the Empire Rose Stakes. Big day for J-Mac, a tissue steaming home to knock off Amelia's Jewel, who was almost being declared the winner at about the 100. Sox Nation back in 3rd. The West Aussie El Safina back in 4th. Ralphy, I was at Everest Day a couple of weeks ago, and I backed a horse called Lek Vardy, and it was massive on that occasion. And again yesterday, this grey galloper, now a 6-year-old, but there's certainly plenty. This mare's raced really well. I thought she was an excellent run. She was probably only beaten a couple of lengths in the end, rattling home late. But all honours with a tissue in what was a really, really good addition to the Empire Rose Stakes. A great race.
Yeah, and I'd be keen on any of those top 6, including Lek Vardy. I'll get to the 5th horse in a sec. If they backed up into the Matriarch next week, so obviously at this stage, Via Sistina is just going to dominate the champions, the old McKinnon. But if any of these backed up, you'd be pretty keen. Sox Nation was super after just not getting clear at all at Caulfield, so they've got her back on track, in fact, to a new level. El Safina, well, she just proved that she's a dry tracker, and you could have forgiven her for a one poor run, and the Toorak was a bit of a non-event for various reasons. And Amelia's Jewel, I like saying that sometimes horses don't win and sometimes they're non-winners. Well, she just hasn't won. She's not a non-winner. She finally got her right circumstance yesterday, and then a super Flemington mare and perfect J-Mac ride, just a lane or two wider, was the difference in the bob of the head. So don't know what they can do with Amelia's Jewel from here to find a Group 1, but she certainly deserves it. She's good enough. And tell me about a Melbourne Cup trial than Zardozi.
It was massive.
Absolutely.
It was massive, and this Melbourne Cup starting to look pretty open at this stage. I just want to go back to Chris Waller. So this is a text a wag sent me before the Moonee Valley Cox Plate. Has Chris Waller run over a black cat? Jolly Star unlucky in Everest. Buckaroo should have won the Caulfield Cup. Via Sistina drama breakfast with the Stars. Unusual Legacy did attend today at Geelong. Right, okay. So whoever this texter is some sort of a genius, because from there on, Via Sistina wins a Cox Plate. For the uninitiated, running a couple of laps probably is good for them, not bad for them, because they're under-trained going into these big races. But Chris Waller has had to deal with all of that. And then you put the Group 1s on and he just bristles out to the middle of the pitch and says, watch this, boys. These are going over square leg.
Whack. Yeah, spot on.
And
And I think we should also add a layer, and I don't know how much you try to get him on in your way, but his availability and accessibility for someone as busy as he is has been such a wonderful ambassador for the sport, because at this time of year you got the extra layer of, mainstream media, Melbourne, this is our couple of weeks where the footy media, in quotation marks, are interested in the sport, and particularly after Via Sistina took off. He was so available to everyone to explain the situation, say it's not a concern now that, once it was established she was right, J-Mac was right, it's not a concern, he's got confidence in it, kept making himself available. So, extra tick and all honours to him. A friend of mine was at a private lunch with him. I reckon I'm going 8 years ago. And this guy was a champion football. He said he attended the lunch on the Sunday on the proviso that he'd be allowed to spend 2 hours by himself in an office at some stage during the day, just excuse himself and do all his work and then come back. He said, I've never seen that type of, commitment and sole focusedness at the same time as being, very sociable and personable. So no surprise that he gets the winners on top of his actual genius because he's got the work ethic to go with it.
So genuine too. Like, you can't manufacture or fake loving your animals and loving your staff, and so often post victory and often in defeat in some sadder times when things haven't gone well on race day, they speak to him and he's just an open book. He's a very emotional character. You ride the highs and lows with him when you watch him in the media, but he's just a very genuine article, and I think he's been amazing for the sport, and he's obviously tipping in so much, and he's got a massive team. He employs a lot of people, but you have to give the man a huge pat on the back for what he's been able to achieve. Ralphie, let's go through the rest of the card. You can handpick what we want to take out of this big program earlier on in the day. Anything that we should be backing up and following over the next little patch out of the first handful?
Well, Aliana hasn't done a lot on the clock, but yeah, speaking Chris Waller, he targets this race every year and people want to ignore it. It's extraordinary. It's dominated. As I said, not much on the clock, but then you can compare it to race 2. Certainly good enough to say that in the 1,000 guineas you'd assume these will all meet each other, so you wouldn't want to be against it, that's for sure. Race 3, the sprint, this was a brutal tempo start for trial. Well, he just couldn't hold it. So it's just created absolute chaos. Mahaba, we black booked it. It wasn't a beam for it yesterday in the money, but they're just too good. The Beg Sable, it's run well. Ray Magnero's run well. Charmstone, I reckon that's a bit of a black booker. I wouldn't be surprised. Rupert Clark in 2 weeks, I reckon she'll run boldly out of that. This will be a strong sprint race because they went so fast. Race 4, another Will and Jimmy Star. Well, speaking of Rupert Clark, if those two go there, they'll be deep in the market. Very hard to beat. Tamer Lane, away from the Rupert Clark, is ready to win. That was a nice first up return. And race 5, well, the Oaks are going to be pretty slow if these are the two. So it's Treasure in the Moment and Powers of Opal. One was just a bit closer to the run, had a bit more depth to its fitness. Wouldn't be surprised if there's not much between them Thursday. And really, from a horse to follow point of view, I'll just say Zardozi on Tuesday.
Okay, is she your on top tip for the Cup at this stage?
Well, I'm looking at it this way, and I'm spending today doing the work, but the Metrop was the dominant local time race. Mm-hmm. So that was Land Legend and Zardozi.
Yep.
Wet Track, and both over-raced in the Caulfield Cup. They didn't quite settle. So that takes the edge off her on Saturday. And as I said, you can't find a better return. And then Land Legend, I had a good look at that replay. He did over-race, and I heard him during the week say they took him to Bendigo for a bit of a bowl round, and Stevie Arnold's really got to work on him and settling him and all that. Stevie Arnold, is no greater horseman according to many smart people. So I think he's ready to come to play as well. So that'll be my main two, and there'll be 100 epilepsy for you if Buckaroo wins. Marty.
Just
thank you very much.
Sorry, Ralphie, before we let you go, on the figures, one Smooth Operator to the eye was most impressive taking out the Geelong Cup. That we also saw Sea King take out the Bendigo Cup, same Ebor form. The numbers that you saw from those two particular runners, one Smooth Operator, Geelong Cup, Sea King in the Bendigo Cup, did those numbers rate nicely for a race like the Melbourne Cup?
Certainly good enough, yeah. And we've seen many times over the years that the set play, if you like, is if an import runs well in its first run, it generally runs better again in its second run. So you wouldn't want to be strongly opposed to either of those two, that's for sure.
Okay, Ralphie, find all your stuff at racetrackralphie.com.au. Thanks for coming on the program.
Good on you, boys. Good chat.
Tom Kidden back on the rails. Then came a striker from Corazon, beat Kintyre, held up. Now Steffi Magnetic is taking a rails run. Ascoli Pacino still third last. It's Lizette and Macarena knuckling it out of the furlong. Macarena testing Lizette. Now Tom Kidden starting to run on. Macarena in front. Steffi Magnetic is getting a gap. And Tom Kidden launching. Lake Forest bursting home on the rails. Lake Forest. William Haggis has done it again. Lake Forest got up to nail, I think, Lazat and Tom Kitten on the wire. Then Steffi Magnet.
What a finish it was to the Golden Eagle. Darren Flindell calls the action and calls it brilliantly, and he joins us on the Aftermath this morning. A very good morning, Darren.
Yeah, good morning, David and Marty. That was some day there. It was a drama charge finish to the Golden Eagle. I didn't know where to look. Initially, I thought, Steffi Magnetica gets through. She'll play a big hand at the finish. It sort of looked like Lazat had been claimed by Tom Kitten, but geez, he's tough, that French horse, and then all of a sudden Lake Forest is bursting up the rails and beat a lot of them. But so much post-race drama followed.
Absolutely, Al. I thought, Darren, you picked it up beautifully. It was so much going on, and then Lake Forest with that burst up along the inside. And as you just touched on, lots going on post-race. Of course, the protest, Lazat up against Lake Forest. Kieran Fallon really did veer out late that last little bit, but the stewards team, Lake Forest, had all of the momentum up. And I think it's fair to say, if you're open and honest and you hadn't had an investment in Watch, you could see that it was certainly claiming it with momentum. How did you see what went on in the stewards' room from there?
Yeah, I was sort of tuning into a little bit of it. What made it complicated, the jockey of the French horse Lazat, Antonio Arani, doesn't speak English, so he was expressing his complaints through the trainer, who then translated it back. So I think it was starting to get rather confusing. And initially I thought, all right, fifth against second, this is a genuine claim. I think Zach Lloyd is well within his rights to throw this protest in. But then I kept looking at this second against the winner. I thought, this can't be right, is it? And then I've had another look at the replay. I thought, this is just madness. What is going on? There's no possible way you could even entertain that idea, considering Lake Forest has come from 5 lengths behind Lazat at the 100 and stormed past it, albeit in a very erratic manner. But Lake Forest had it completely covered. So it was a rather insane protest. But both the riders, Kieran Fallon, who ran out on Lazat, he's copped a $100,000 fine and a substantial fine for Antonio Arani as well, and a month ban for both riders. So it certainly livened affairs up. But to think that even Lake Forest could win the race is incredible. I mean, William Haggis, his strike rate in Sydney is phenomenal. And he's just done it time and time again over the last 4 or 5 years, bringing horses, and you look at their profile, you think, well, he's not coming here unless he thinks he can win. But the difference this year is normally he's bringing stayers over to win our 2,000, 2,400 metre races. He's brought this horse with 1,200 metre form to win a 1,500 metre race and taking on some of the best, not just in Australia, but the Japanese filly in particular, Ascoli Pacino. It was just mind-boggling that he would bring a 1,200 metre horse from England to run over 1,500 metres. And, wow, it's got some acceleration on it. Maybe you start to think maybe they should have come for the Everest as well.
Yeah. And what about the race before, the Russell Balding Stakes? Bella Nipotina, this mare, she just continues to win prize money, hits up to about 22 million now. What a win, and she did it on the steel.
Yes, the race panned out absolutely perfectly for her. The 2 leaders went crazy. Cold Crush and Iron Me declared each other on pretty much from the outset. And Craig Williams was just able to get Bella Nipotina immediately in the third, and she was in that stalking role. And the patience of Craig, you could see all the way up the straight. He was just cuddling her with cover on the heels of those 2 leaders, and it was just a matter of just wait, and then he pressed the button, and that acceleration was there, and she quickly put up the 3-length margin, and none of the rivals could rope that in. But the thing about the prize money levels now, I mean, Nature Strip was a champion sprinter over many years, and now Bella Nipotina has surpassed him and gone into the second slot as the second highest stakes earner of all time behind Winx. And I think we're looking at about 3 or 4 million behind the record of Winx. And when you consider what she did to achieve that record, this is quite outstanding for Bella Nicotina.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Darren, I was lucky enough to get across for the Everest a couple of weekends ago now, my first ever visit for that particular race. It came with a lot of hype and build-up, and I must admit, going in, I went in with open eyes, and let's just see how it pans out. I came home saying it's one of the greatest race days I've ever been to, and it's locked in to go and visit again. What Sydney have done with this carnival in recent years is spectacular. You must be delighted with the racing that has unfolded and the event that this has become.
Yeah, from a caller's point of view, it's a tremendous buzz to be able to work in front of a packed crowd like that, such a noisy crowd. And when you look down as they're going to the gates before the big one, and you can't even see a blade of grass anywhere on the lawn, and the members and the public, and then this what's become tradition now, the singing of Sweet Caroline as they go to the gates, and how this young crowd really rips in and gets involved in it. I guess that's the big success of it. It's become an event, and in reality, I'd say a fair portion of the young crowd aren't sitting there having bets on every race, but they're obviously taking some type of an interest, and they wanted that type of market, and now they've got it. They've made an event out of it.
Darren, thanks for your time this morning. Congratulations. Your coverage has been first class. I loved your Metrop call. I think that was the best of the spring so far, but continued success, and go forward and continue to call the best you can.
I think as a result, I better have a little ticket on Land Legend in the Cup on Tuesday.
I'm with you as well. Let's go to news. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Darren.
The Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport. On The Aftermath, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club, Brad Hardie. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Good morning, Bradley. Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty. Good to be with you, boys. The first day of the carnival was magnificent. The weather gods turned it on for us, and it looks like it's going to be a repeat on Tuesday, so can't wait. It's a fabulous time of the year to be on the East Coast.
That it is. Let's get this Retrovision text line underway, because we've got plenty to cover off with you as well. We want to find out what happened to Peter Bell at Fremantle. That's been quite a busy topic on the Retrovision text line. But morning, guys and team. Happy Sunday. Good win to the Wildcats. 2 on the trot without Bryce Cotton. There are whispers he could be on the move, and also that Peter Bell could be the Pies' next CEO. Wow. Guys, with another failure from Constas, Harris and Bancroft on day 3, could you see them have zero chance of being selected to replace Cam Green? McSweeney, the 25-year-old, who topped the score for Australia A in the first innings and 47 not out on day 3, could be in with a chance. Also, although he's never opened in the batting at first-class level, he looks more than capable of facing the new ball against India this summer. Your thoughts, Brad? Guys, your tip for the Melbourne Cup, please, and your first 4 would be appreciated. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy Cup Day. And that is from Lisa of Allenbrook.
Well, there's a few topics there, Shorty, that's for sure. No doubt about that. The one thing I will say about McSweeney, we had a good chat to Crash Credit yesterday, and he's been pushing his barrow as well. And I find it surprising, really. I mean, I'd never really heard of him too much until he's not even an established Shield player, to be brutally frank. I mean, he averages around in the mid-30s, still peppering around. And I heard you say in your preamble, Shorty, I'm not sure who wants to open the batting for Australia, to be honest. Kawaj is there, but I don't think they know themselves. Everybody's sort of falling over, and no one's really pressing up to take the opportunity. But I think we know for political reasons it won't be Cam Bancroft. But the field gets pretty narrow after that. No one's really putting their hat in the air and say, yeah, I'll do it. And they're even still talking about Labuschagne pushing up to maybe open. But that's stupid, because he's got to start finding some form too, because he's been, he's got a ripping average of 50, so you can't knock that. But last 39 innings, test innings, 1 century, not good enough.
Correct, Brad. He had a wonderful start to his Test career, and he fattened up the average at that stage of his career. But I was speaking off air to Marty, and Australian cricket right now are in an interesting spot. So Khawaja, now in his late 30s, doesn't have a heap left in him. We've got this vacant opening spot, which they tried Steve Smith with, but he wasn't an orthodox opener, and it hasn't worked. So the Aussie selectors say, let's make it a bat-off between primarily our three key openers as it sits right now. Harris, we're going to throw in the youngster, Constas, and Cam Bancroft. They've played them up to 3 games now they've been involved, and each one of them has failed on each occasion. McSweeney, as the skipper of this Australian A side, certainly is the one that I think has come to the fore. So he's not a traditional opener, but he's shown in this game against India on a tricky deck that he can adapt his game style, that he can be a bit of a grinder if he has to. Brad, his natural game is to be aggressive and really go at the bowling. He's played some wonderful white ball innings in that capacity, but he has shown that he has adapted to the conditions here. I know that the selectors like his leadership skills. They like the way he's worked at his game. Right now, if I'm framing a market, he's absolutely at the top of the page. 2 other guys here talking about, ironically, neither of them are red ball openers, but they both are white ball openers. Josh Inglis from here in WA has had a great start to the Shield season and done well for Australia when opening in the white ball game. And a bit of groundswell for Matt Shortte, who's been dominant in the Big Bash over the last couple of seasons, but doesn't play much red ball cricket at all, but opens in the white ball format. But that shows you how deep they're drilling down, because the guys that are the red ball openers haven't put their hand up to say it's me.
No, but the Australian Cricket Australia and the actual selectors themselves got to take ownership of this. I mean, a year ago we were talking about it. David Warner was running the show. He was going to retire when he felt like retiring. They should have been setting this up a year ago. You've always got to look to the future. There's no doubt about that, and they're reaping what they're sowing at the moment. And so it's and it's very easy for a flippant Cummins to come out and say, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Batting order doesn't matter." Of course it matters, and we've been saying it for some time that it's a specialist position being an opener, and you need to have one. Khawaja's played it smart the last couple of years. He just leans on the bat and takes all day to get his numbers, and good on him. But they're looking, at least when David Warner was there, I'll give him this. I mean, if he made 25 and he got out, he made them quickly. So that's the issue they've got. They've got to find someone who's got attacking flair, who can hold with Khawaja holding up one end and someone else to strike the ball the other.
Okay, what about the point on Bryce Cotton? So the Wildcats without him have won their last 2. They've looked a more cohesive unit, and a lot of these players who don't get the court time have shown that they can play the game at the highest level.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, no, look, he's a star, Bryce Cotton. No worry about that. They won't want to be getting rid of him. I mean, he's just brilliant. He's the barometer for that club. I mean, his season last year is mirroring this year. He couldn't buy a basket last year early, couldn't buy one early this year. Then he started to hit back and they won a game. Okay, he's been injured now. But, some of the other guys do get their opportunity. It was a terrific win against the Hawks, who've been the pace setters early this season. So that's good. But, that can be a sugar hit. So they won't want to be getting rid of Bryce Cotton anytime soon.
No, I'm not saying getting rid of him. But I think what it does, it opens up a door. See, the thing with Bryce Cotton is when you're playing through Bryce and he's attracting a stopper or whatever, his game's off, or he's not hitting his points, that's when now they may be able to have a plan B or C where they say, okay, it's not happening for you tonight, but we're going to go through Doolittle, we're going to go through use Pepper more to look for a 3-point game or something.
Oh yeah, no, I get that. I get that, but I couldn't. There was some talk. I think the text said that he was thinking about leaving. Well, I don't think they want him. As you say, you build around him, you build on him. You don't want him out of there. I mean, as I say, it might work well at the moment, but when the whips are cracking, the cream comes to the top. And he's the cream.
Yeah, he's clutch. They want to lock him away too. And I think, to be fair, Bryce Cotton, watching that game on Friday night, was very invested in the game. There was a point in the game where he actually got up off his seat. There was a little bit of feedback for one of the Illawarra players. I think it was absolutely. There was a bit of chat there late in the game. But what that showed me is that Bryce, even though he's injured and on the sidelines, is still very much invested in wanting this team to do well. Yeah. If he wasn't that invested, I would have been thinking to myself, maybe he's keen to move on, and he does doesn't have the faith in his teammates. But these last two results would have been great for him to go, you know what, maybe there's a little bit more here than what we thought there is. Marty's point's a good one. While Bryce Cotton's out on the court, it's a little bit like when sides play against Carlton. You know that they're going to go through Curnow and Mackay 80% of the time. As a defensive unit, you can sag to them and know that if you put the energy into them and keep them quiet, you're a good chance. When you play Perth, if you can shut down Bryce Cotton, the chances are you're going to win the game. Now, like you say, someone like Ben Henschel has come out and gone so well. That was an amazing first half for this young guy. There's always been big raps on Benny Henschel from a national perspective, but this was, for me, the breakout game for this young guy. To come out, drill a heap of three-pointers, 24 points for the game, 26 points for the game. He was the go-to man in that first half. He should now have confidence enough that even when Bryce is in the team, when you're open for that shot, take the shot. You're the man. You can be the man now. So I think these last couple of wins for the Wildcats with a bit of adversity, Brad, will be very good for them in the scheme of things in what is quite an open NBL season as it sits right now.
Very open season.
Indeed.
No doubt. They've just got to make sure they just hold their line till Christmas and really get cranked up after. That's generally when the whips are cracking, and hopefully they can do that. But when you're 1 of 5 on the court, it's a little bit easier, a bit more controlled going through one guy as opposed to a footy field where you've got quite a few players out there who can pick up the slack.
Hey, Brad, we then touched on Peter Bell. What's the story there?
Oh, I love Belly. We always got on really well, but he was pushed. Don't worry about that. I mean, that started last year. You know, he was pushed sideways. It's no different to. It wasn't no different to if you run the rule of thumb through it. Craig Vozzo got moved out of footy at West Coast. Shorty upstairs, then out the door. Chris Grant moved sideways this year. Should have been moved out the door last year. We love Chrissy, but the bottom line was he's not that great. So what he does. So from that point of view, they push him sideways. They keep him there. He's got a contract to run out, and we'll see where that lands in the end. You look at Gary Pert. You knew it was coming, as we predicted last week, Marty, that it was coming, and you get pushed sideways into what they call special projects. Good luck. Doesn't exist. It's nothing. It's just running the contracts down. So he now comes back a consultant. Well, look, and I get it, and Belly is smart enough and he's clever enough to get somewhere else. I know he's been over the East Coast sometimes during the year, and he's been sort of looking around. I don't see him being the football manager at Collingwood. I don't think that'll happen. But it certainly put your oar in the water. I think if he was going to go anywhere, possibility a position might open up at AFL House for inclusivity, culture, all that sort of stuff. He'd be ideal for sort of that because a champion little player, you don't really do what he did unless you're self-driven. He did well, but let's call a spade a spade. He just push you out the door.
Brad, this is a really interesting issue how it's turned out because to all intents and purposes, Peter Bell has given a fair portion of his life to this football club. He really wanted the ultimate success for the football club. When he returned, he came back with a real energy and a purpose, and he hasn't quite been able to get it done. But clearly on the way through, the politics of the football club have stepped in. He's obviously had some ideas that he's wanted to implement that others around him maybe haven't. And in the end, we've all been involved in sporting clubs, and often it's the politics. And once a power group within a sporting club get enough numbers behind them, they always seem to get their way.
Oh, absolutely, sure. As I say, and as I say, I get really well with him. But the bottom line was when he first started, I think you can go back, I think about 17, 18, I think when he went into the recruiting and all that sort of stuff. And I think that he got a nice deal. He was rolled over by Rossich and Lyon to get Hogan. Hogan failed a test, that they predicted they had on the weekend before. Nobody wanted Hogan at that stage. They love him now, but they didn't want him then. And the bottom line was he got overruled by Lyon and Rossich. So that was his first chink in the armour. Then, of course, he had the feather in the cap statement, which about keeping Lockie near. Well, that didn't work either. So, this is when the dossier starts to build. I'm not saying it was his fault. The best thing he did do was prepare that dossier to get rid of Ross Lyon. And he was the one. He showed a lot of balls and a lot of gumption, as you do when you come from Fremantle. and he was the one who helped get him out the door. So that was a move. But then he micromanaged. He got Justin Longmuir in from a year out, and then he started to try to micromanage, and then they had that success in the third year, remember, Shorty. And then all of a sudden the Blues started again, Marty. You know why? I was the architect of this. No, I was. No, I was, and it started again, and then things start to fall apart, and we know what's happened over the last couple of years post that. So from that point of view, that's what happens. Personalities, politics, as you say, Shorty, end up claiming scalps, and unfortunately in this club, it's been Peter Bell.
A bit of a sad ending for a guy that's meant a lot to the football club. I just think it's a bit of a sad finish to his time at the club, the way that it's sort of panned out, and I don't think it's taken any gloss off the job that he's done as a player or his legacy at the football club. We would have loved it to
he's a legend of the club.
Yeah, spot on. I think that's the best way to look at it, Brad. Regardless of what's happened here, he remains a legend of that football club. I love the man. I've got a lot of time for him. I've loved what he's done. Came across and he's invested so much to the club, and I think his intentions have been very good right the way through. So we wish him all the very best heading forward.
It doesn't matter whether it's Bally or anybody else for that matter. Trevor Woodhouse got the Lebanon's ask from the recruiting officer in recruiting at West Coast recently. He'd been there 32 years, Shorty. As I said to Marty last week, it's not whether you do it. I mean, we all understand that. People get moved on. People don't get interchanged and whatever, and you go along. It's how you do it. It's how you do it. You have a bloke from West Coast where a bloke flies over from Adelaide, knocks on Trevor Woodhouse's door and said, listen, after 32 years, we're a month out from the draft, but you're no longer required. I mean, seriously? I mean, the bloke's here for 32 years of his life.
What business does
work
that?
it out.
Yeah.
How do you want to do this? Do you want to let's go through the draft, let's do it, and then you fade off into the sunset. That's how you do it. But some of these morons that are running football clubs and sporting clubs per se haven't got a clue.
Need to keep pushing on here, Marty, and boys, get on Smooth Operator in the Cup this Tuesday. I got 100 to 1 each way, a few dollars on before the Geelong Cup. Smashing win. Cheers, Bluey. Good on you, Bluey. Let's hope that gets up for you at $100. Hey?
My driver has too. He's got it on 100 to 1. He's on 50s on Sea King. So he's had a really good run. That was the E-ball race has been a very, very good form race for the Melbourne Cup.
Never produced a winner yet, but it's always produced horses that go very well in it.
We'll pass on our best to Marco Bradley. The drinks could be on him if it all goes to plan there on Tuesday.
Right. Got your own driver. Things weren't paying you too much, that is for sure. Hi, Marty and Shorty and Brad. I was interested to hear that Mitch Marsh said he would be ready to bowl in the first test against India. With his track record of sustaining an injury when he bowls and with his advancing years, I can't really see him being a threat to the Indian batsman when throwing the ball, probably bowling in the low 120s and not in the mid to high 130s, which would be required. I fully understand why Mitch is talking up his ability to bowl, wanting to project his value to the side as an all-rounder, but sadly, I think his days as an all-rounder are numbered. That's from Rusty Gates.
Interesting. I guess, Brad, it'll just come down to fitness for Mitch. And to be fair, his body has let him down a little bit.
And the situation required.
Yep.
And the situation required. If India are dug in and it's a flat track and, they're 2 for 350 or something and you're trying to hold up an end, he might do that. But, look, the bloke who's been harshly judged, I think, is Nisa. I mean, he's the one they've got to look at going forward because we know how good our strike bowlers have been, Shorty, for a number of years. But at some point, again, we talk about age. There's if someone doesn't come into this first test, everyone's going to be over 30.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just quite unbelievable. So, we've got to try and find somebody to come in and freshen it up a bit.
Sorry, just quickly on the bowling situation for Australia. So we've got Hazelwood, we've got Stark, and we've also got Cummins. But the next two in line, Boland and Nisa, they're both 30 plus, aren't they? So there's the next two.
I think they're Boland's not in the equation for me. I mean, look, I know he's had some great times at the MCG, but I think Nisa looks a young spray. He looks like he might be an older model with low Ks, I reckon. That's what I think about Nisa.
Yeah, well, all I'm thinking though is long term. It's not really a fix because they're very similar age bracket, if not older than what is already there. So you kind of need something that's maybe 10 years sort of younger that can get some real generation out of it.
Here's one to throw at you a different angle here. With the advancement of sports medicine, are these cricketers playing better for longer?
I'd say yes.
Absolutely they are, and they get rotated a lot more. I mean, you couldn't tell Dennis Lilly to stand out of a game when he was playing, or Jeff Thompson. Just wouldn't happen. Yeah, they just and look, they play a hell of a lot more of the shorter versions as well. They got IPLs, they got all these other ones that invade the scene. Whereas before, back in the old days, it was a little bit different. Some guys only have to bowl 4 overs a game, so they can get through that all right.
Plenty to get through here on cricket, but we need now to get to this Lexus Melbourne Cup on Tuesday. Brad, have you had a look at the great race yet?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've been constantly, and obviously I'm rooting for the driver because he's on at 100-1 on the One Smooth Operator. I think it'll be fantastic if it can. It's certainly going to be in there up to its eyeballs. So the one I've been looking at, he's just a genius too, isn't he, Kieran Maher? I mean, Akita Sushi.
Yep.
I think I really like it. I think it's going to. Don't leave it out of your Moldies, boys, and all that sort of stuff. I think it's currently around about the $20 mark on Tab Touch, which is terrific. Jamie Carr in excellent form, winning the Derby yesterday. It's drawn 10. A lot of the others got a little bit of work to do from their varying draws. It's a horse that's got adaptability. Won at Moonee Valley the other day. It's sort of, if you have a look at all the traditional lead-up races, Shorty, it's there. It's in most of the photos. So I really like it. I think it's going to be it's going to be there. So I'm leaning towards it, boys, to hopefully get the chockies at around about 20-1, which would be nice for everyone.
It'll be a truly run cup. There's enough speed out wide. I think the first 5 or 6 inside are going to want to hold their positions, and then Just Final and Akita Sushi will be horses coming across, and then there's a few out wider. I really think one of Waller's and one of Mars, which ones they are, will be sent forward to make sure this race is genuinely run, because they'd want Buckaroo, I'd imagine, to go back and give it every possible chance with one run similar to the Caulfield Cup to just run into the finish. Wide barriers, no problems. If you have a look, the last 7 have all drawn double figures, so don't be put off by horses drawn wide. And I think you've just got to look at Waller and Mars' ability to get these horses to peak in a big race. So when you're looking for wide runners in your novelties, don't be scared to throw any of those roughies in the 3rd and 4th box.
Absolutely. I think,
I agree with that.
Brad, you've always got to throw a couple in on the out wide that are 50-1 plus. Is nearly every year one of them lobs in the first 4 in that range, if not bigger. I backed One Smooth Operator off the Geelong Cup win. I thought it was a dominant performance. I was really impressed. Craig Williams is in white hot form at the moment in the saddle as well, so it gets all the ticks for me. I think that Seeking off that Bendigo Cup, they finished next to each other pretty much in the E-Board. And you know that they're both in Australia. You know, they both had a run and gone well. I like seeing that personally as a punter, knowing that they've arrived in good nick and that they're racing well. So those two certainly will be in my top 5. Zardozi and Land Legend are 2 horses that we've both been following, Marty, the last month or so. I'm not dropping away from them. And there's one horse, and every time there is a Japanese runner in any big race in Australia, I respect them enormously. And while the performance of Warp Speed in the Caulfield Cup was moderate at best, you go back 3, 4, 5 runs ago, this horse finished 5th in the Tenno show. It is the elite staying race each and every year, beaten only 4 lengths. Prior to that, runner-up there at Hanshin beaten only 5 lengths over 3,000 metres. This horse will stay no problem at all. And when there's a Japanese runner in a big staying race, I'm respecting them. It's at $31. It draws soft in barrier 3. It's only got 54.5 kilos. It's the horse at bigger prices that I'll be including, that I'm giving some hope to. Marty, you're pretty good with the Japanese form generally. What do you make of this horse? Is it any hope in the Cup?
Just forget he's run in the Caulfield Cup. He's had 2 runs on soft tracks before, both unplaced. One of them beaten 10 lengths. At his next start on a fast track, come out and won. So just forget he went around. I've spoken to Josh about that track. It was one of those sticky tracks, Brad, where it had been got to a heavy 8 and it was drying out to a soft 6 by the end of the day, and it was glue pot. And a lot of horses just hate it. Warp Speed hated it, refused to go a yard in it. And I normally love the Caulfield Cup form. This year I'm sort of got a bit of a question mark on it, although Buckaroo's run was outstanding. Land Legend's run, go back and have a look at his run. It was outstanding. And to watch what Waller's done with Land Legend, I was thinking Norton bit. He's gone for the hood. Got rid of the obviously, he's just going to have the black hood on for the whole race.
Relax.
And he's taken him to Bendigo with that, and he's just let Stevie Arnold bowl around. The other morning at Flemington, he let him bowl around, and when asked, what are you doing with this horse? He said, I'm teaching it to go slow. He's getting the horse to be patient. If he gets it right, Land Legend will blow him out of the water late. He's got the best set of lungs of any horse in this race. But he's got to be able to get it right. That's the trick.
A lot of the internationals are hitting up for Vauban. It didn't work out last year, but so it's in much better condition. But my spies down there tell me that Absurd will beat it home for sure.
Yeah, so, I've heard that as well. Paul Bloodworth told us that, not as succinct as that, Brad, but he between the lines on Friday said that Absurd may be going a little bit better than Vauban, and I can get that. But you've got to pay respect. The form of all these internationals here in Australia at the moment is mind-blowing.
Big time.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the Golden Eagle.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I know you talked that with Darren Flindell before, which was absolutely outstanding. But there was a horse, Johnny Deeble, part owner of the horse that was going to be the favourite in the Rosehill Gold Cup yesterday. It finished 8th in the E-Ball. They didn't start it yesterday. They're holding it over. So keep a Royal Voyager, I think it's called, or something like that. Just keep an eye out for it because it was going to start favourite yesterday in the Rosehill Gold Cup. It finished 8th in the E-Ball alongside those two other horses who won the Geelong and the Bendigo Cups.
Hey, Bradley, we've got to get moving. We need your Sunday saviour.
Yes. Yes, I'm I'm hoping Bjorn Baker will look after us early today, Shorty. Now race 1, number 2, Midnight Dynamite, $1.50. We'll put intake out there. It'll win. Now race 2, number 5, Miss Kim Carr, $1.90. And then we'll go to Muswellbrook race 4, number 2, Prima Bella, $3. So race 1, number 2, Midnight Dynamite at Nowra. Race 2, number 5, Miss Kim Carr at Nowra. And then the Muswellbrook, race 4, number 2, Prima Bella, $3. That's $8.55, boys. We will be in the queue today, Ginger.
Okay, Ginger, she's got a bit in the account. She's been going along nicely. There's a tip here from Ginger. She's saying Peninsula Cup, Mornington today. Race 8, number 2, Cosmic Vega at $4.40.
Okay. We'll be betting up big, Ginger, when we get our little multi home early. We like to get the money early. Get the money early and ready for later.
Brad, Loans 1, 2, 3, and of course Retrovision bring you every time you're on this radio station. They're very fine sponsors.
Yes. Yeah, Group 1 board, 17 stores, got to be one near you. One out here, Lisa, as a matter of fact, and Allenbrook's killing them. Going beautifully. The Nude Nut, everybody needs finances, and you're booming over there in the marketplace. 1-800-100-100. He can do things the banks can't, so get involved with them, boys. Don't forget Frankie Lee, too. He's a bit of a champion.
Talking about the trots, cannot wait to talk to Greg Bond about Christopher Dance. What sort of a superstar is this horse? Wow. It was amazing there on Friday night, and really excited to talk some trots with Greg
go back and
later on. Yeah, have a look at that.
We're going to have a look at the replay. And what about that performance of Switzerland yesterday?
Yeah.
Just quietly.
I think it had a bit of May on it for you, Bradley.
It did have a bit of mine on.
Thanks for coming on. All the best. We'll listen to you during the week.
See.
Lightly done, shuffle back to third last with also West Indies and Tenbury Wells into the running at the 500 metres, and Gold Rush Guru under a hold goes up to Hot to Go. Then came King of Wall Street, who's running on fairly well. Red Aces is coming through, still 4 off the lead. Gold Rush Guru went for home. 2 lengths King of Wall Street, followed by Scary right down the centre of the track. Gold Rush Guru at the 150. Scary is staying on, then China Sea. Gold Rush Guru for South Australia with 100 to go is pulling out. It's the stronger. It's going well. And Gold Rush Guru won the Derby. Scary second, a photo third between King of Wall Street.
Yeah, the pride of South Australia there yesterday. Gold Rush Guru getting the job done. We've been lucky enough to get a hold of Andrew Gluyas this morning, the trainer of Gold Rush Guru, here on the Aftermath. Welcome to you, Andrew, and congratulations. How's the celebrations been?
I've been quite good, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It was a wonderful race day yesterday. The VRC Derby is a massive occasion, and it was great to be a part of it. And it was even better to be a winning part of it. It's wonderful.
Jamie Carr, of course, a very, very popular lady in South Australia, even more so after this performance. It was a magnificent ride. Barrier 15, it could have been very awkward, but she She chanced her arm, headed forward, landed in the perfect position, and then you could just see at the top of the lane when Jamie produced Gold Rush Guru, there was plenty there. Talk us through what your thought process was in the early stages when Jamie was sort of out there looking for a spot. What were you thinking at the time?
Oh, it goes back earlier than that. She's broke her nose earlier in the race, in the Wakefield, a couple of races before, so I thought I might have to replace her. That wasn't the case. Out she went. I said, "Oh, it looks all right." And no, she said, "Oh, no, it's broken." I said, "All right." She said they put some stuff up my nose that's stopping it, so it's it was still trickling a bit, but it was a good effort by her to continue on. So. Yeah, the horse got pulling a little bit in the early stages going out around that corner, and it looked a little bit difficult for her. But she said later that once he found that trailing spot with a bit of cover, he went to sleep, and it was wonderful. I thought perhaps we're going to be a little bit too close, but as it turned out, that was our advantage, and he travelled strongly into the straight, and it was very strong to the line and held them off, and scary that was coming at him. They were actually stalled together at the back there at Flemington, and it was a great effort by Gold Rush Guru.
Andrew, listen to your post-race interview. You said you come from a stable that love training Derby winners as such. Of course, your previous partnership with Leon, but this is a fair training effort. 15, 1600, into the Hill Smith 1800, straight up into a Derby at 2500.
Thank you. He had. I felt that he'd had the foundations of the prep. We had a couple of 6 furlong races before that, and we did get him in that bit early because his 2-year-old he just wasn't together as a 2-year-old, so we didn't have much racing into him that was of any quality. So although he presented as a nice horse early in the prep, we just didn't know how our racing was going to go. So, but he came out and won 2 6 furlong races, and that was all good. Then we had just some muddly sort of 1,500 mile races, and we thought at that stage that we might try to tackle the Caulfield Guineas, but he just wasn't quite ready for that. So we changed direction there, and then we got to the Hill Smith on the same day. There was the Caulfield 2,000 metre race, and we sort of nominated him there and had a look at that, but then decided to stay in Adelaide, and as it turned out, that's worked out well. He raced well over 1,800 now, Hill Smith, and then 2 weeks into the 2,500, it's worked out really well. I think he was seasoned early in the campaign with fitness, and then it showed yesterday.
So from a trainer's perspective, you're listed as training at Morphettville. Do you or have you trained this horse in the sand or using hills, etc., to get that strength up?
No, we're based at Morphettville. We just use a standard training facility there. Morphettville's great. It's got everything we need to condition the horses to go out and perform. The horse obviously is genetically bred to stay, and that's what he did yesterday. He was very strong.
How's the horse pulled up this morning, Andrew?
Oh, he was great. I got him out and then I dropped my glasses and he stood on them. So
lucky.
He busted them and he pulled up well. He threw a shoe in the race, but that's the only mishap really, which has been really a faultless prep.
So when the dust settles, what are the back of your mind thoughts of going forward with him?
Oh, at the start of the prep, I had a little sneaky look at Riff Rocket and what he did, and both American Pharaoh horses, and so I think we'll get to our heads together. But I think once perhaps a little look at autumn in Melbourne, and then perhaps a Sydney campaign.
Exciting times. It's wonderful when you can take out a Group 1 feature like this. The cookies are now in the jar, Andrew, and from there you can put your feet up on the dashboard and just charter some nice races for the horse heading forward. And I think he's paid for those glasses, so you can probably forgive him for that, the way things panned out there yesterday. What about the rest of the team, Andrew? How many are you working with? And potentially there's plenty of punters tuned in this morning. Is there a horse or two from the camp that we can watch out for over the next month or two from your team?
We sort of set up at Morphettville, and I've got facilities to cope with about 40 horses, and we sort of work, between 30 and 40. So it's it's not a big stable, but becoming not a bad season so far, and probably a nice horse that's on the way through his grades. It's a horse called Watch Me Win. So he might be one to follow for your listeners.
Magnificent. Andrew, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Aftermath this morning, and well done with Gold Rush Guru. I'm sure you won't be needing to buy too many beers next time you head to the bar over there in SA. A very popular win for the Crow Eaters. All the very best to you, mate. Continued success.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks for the call. Thanks for having me on.
He's a ripper, a very modest man, isn't he? And what a win it was. Let's clear a couple off the text on before we get to Bondi. Cummins says batting order doesn't matter. Further proof that fast bowlers should not be captain. That is from Gordon.
Oh, it matters. Make no mistake. It's. I think as much as whether it matters or not, one word for me that really does matter, and that is routine and consistency, and having opening partners that are comfortable with each other. Often a top five. You want reliability. You don't want lots of changes. You want guys that have played plenty of cricket together, know how to run between wickets together. All of that comes into play. When You've got new guys playing in and out of teams, the amount of times you see run-outs, and people don't normally think about that, but you watch when there's guys playing together that don't play a lot of cricket together, it takes time for that chemistry to be there between wickets. Run-outs happen, you get impatient with each other, and then you can lose the plot. So having that stability is the key for any cricketing side, and I think in that instance, order does matter.
Okay, this is from Tom. Interesting one. I'm pretty confident Bryce will be off to the Chiba Jets with Trevor Gleeson at the end of the season. We'll go for 2 seasons for a payday and finish his career back at the Wildcats. That's from Tom.
Oh, interesting thought there, Tom. I know that he had a wonderful relationship with the previous coach there, Trevor, and I wouldn't faint, but geez, just seems a locked in Perth Wild. Like the love for him here in WA is massive. There'd be a huge kickback if he was to leave the Perth Wildcats. He's the best paid player in the league. He deserves to be. I don't think, particularly with a new owner coming in to town, he understands how important he is. He won't be letting him go.
Okay, let's go back to Friday night here at Gloucester Park.
On the outside, Chualu travelled up okay. Menemsha got into the clear. Ultra Tribute's got a problem. Then you came along, got up on the inside, and here comes Christopher Dance with a whirlwind run out wide. Artful Major worked into the clear. Wave Rider, but Christopher Dance has swept up 28.7. Runs up on the outside of the stablemate Vegas Strip. Menemsha got into the clear to try and run a place, and then Chualu. But it looked all over. Christopher Dance has shot right away, and he's got the hat-trick in the Derby. Have a look at him go. Christopher Dance, brilliant for Duchess Dead. He's going to bolt the Derby in, and Christopher Dance has waltzed home to beat Menemsha.
It was one of the most stunning performances of the weekend in any code. Greg Bond joins us to talk about the win of Christopher Dance in the Derby. Group 1 action Friday night here at Gloucester Park. Bondy, well done.
Thanks very much, lads. How are we doing this morning?
Group 1, Greggy, nice to be with you. Great viewing there on Friday night. You must have just been delighted with things on as they turned for home. Denny's wheeled out Christopher Dance, and that acceleration was just stunning. That was lights out very, very swiftly.
Yeah, look, we've obviously, he wasn't a cheap one to get. We've only had him a short period of time, but we've always had him in New Zealand, and finally were able to put a deal together on him, and nice to get that done, but you still got to come here and get the job done too, and to the horse's credit, he had a little bit of this tighter tracks. He's sort of, we've had to give him a few extra track runs, but every time we've done it, he's continued to get better and better, and you saw a real good version of him Friday night, and there was a pleasing result. The race was run at a tempo which gave him a chance to get into it, because, as you know, he settled last. But he was able to take advantage of that, and didn't just win, he put them away good. So the future looks pretty bright, yeah.
He's just got all the weapons, hasn't he? Because we've seen him go forward and sit outside the leader. We've seen him come from behind. He's got strength. He's got speed. He looks a pretty big horse to me. I haven't seen him up live, Bondy, but he looks a very nimble horse for a bigger sized pacer.
Yeah, he probably, probably presents himself. He probably looks bigger than
he is. Yeah.
Than he actually is. But I think he's got that. He carries himself.
Yeah.
That bit of presence, so probably makes him look a bit bigger than what he is. But he's not a small horse. He'd probably be maybe pushing 15.2, maybe 15.1, definitely 15.1, maybe 15.2. But no, you're right about the depth on him and the high speed he's got. So they're. I mean, if you want to make it to the top grade, you've got to have those two weapons to start with. But he's and he's got his more than his fair share of ability. So we're looking forward to the future with him. It's all being well, staying together. There's a lot of wins in the tank on him, I would have thought, for sure.
Most definitely, Bondi. Marty and I were chatting off air when we were talking about the win and this horse and. That word versatility as a trainer and also for obviously Denny as a driver. There are a good number of horses that can race around in fast class, but they need things to go their way. Some of them need to be able to roll to the top and dictate. Others need to sit back and come with one run. It must be really, really nice for yourself and Denny and the connections to have a horse that's just got those different dimensions and can adapt to what's happening within a race without having to be locked into one only game plan.
Yeah, and you probably saw that Friday night. I mean, our probably preferred option was to draw a barrier and work forward and either sit parked or hopefully roll to the front. And when the nine came up, especially when Senior's horse Out of Tribute drew barrier 2, it was sort of, okay, well, if he does get the breeze, there's probably no breeze there for us. So we sort of worked out we probably had to come with one run, probably from, as Denny did, from the 1100, get trucking and give ourselves a shot there. It's good to be able to not just be a one-trick pony, so to speak, Shorty, and he showed that on Friday night anyway, that, he can, and even, down the back Out of Tribute made a break and we were right on his jacket, and fortunately Denny saw it looking like something might go awry, so she was already half out when he broke. But if she hadn't got around that, I mean, that cost him a little bit of territory when that happened anyway. But fortunately, he didn't cop a big backwash from that. Otherwise, it possibly could have put him out of the race. But credit to the horse, he checked off it and kept his balance and kept going.
We haven't got on to Denny, but let's talk about it while we are. Magnificent drive. And as you said, she preempted a little bit of trouble down the back. She was across and out, and it's sort of. It was just a magnificent drive. When she went, she got the trail into the race. You must be so wrapped and feel so fortunate to have her. And I think she's your fourth person, isn't she, as well? So to be so close with this young star on the way through, it'd be terrific for everyone.
Yeah, it's a great recipe, Marty. Denny's worked for us full time for a number of years now, and when Ryan was with us, Denny was sort of driving. She'd started with us, and she got through to driving our second stringers. And when Ryan wasn't available, whether it be holidays or having a spell on the sidelines with suspension, we gave her the opportunities on those horses, and she took them then. And when Ryan elected to move on. Sky and I sort of thought about it, not for very long, and said, "Look, let's give her a shot. She's earned the right. Let's give her a go." And to her credit, she grabbed it with both hands. And last season she drove over 200 winners, which and she was a leading driver in Australasia last year, and she's a leading female driver in Australasia again this year at this point in time. So. She just hasn't had a fluky purple patch. She's and driving, from Sky and my point of view, we could count on one hand the drives that we're probably not happy with over the last, nearly 2 years. So full credit to her. She does her homework. She works hard, and she deserves the success she gets.
Indeed, yes, sustained success and hard work certainly paying off. Well done to Denny. It was overall a pretty nice result out of the race, full stop. I think, would you end up running first, third, fourth, fifth, something like that on the night? So take us through the other runners in the race and how you saw their performances, Bondi.
We had, we held up with Vegas Strip and probably the lead time at 1:06, and we had a bit of pressure on us early, which is understandable being a Group 1 race. Probably just the lead time probably needed to come back, and he ran a 59.5 first half after that. So when I was watching those sectionals, I thought, gee whiz, they're probably going to be feeling the pinch, these horses, a little bit late, which is how it eventuated. But look, Vegas Strip was great. He only got tied in the last couple of hundred. Tualoo sat outside him. And again was not that far away with him. They ran 5th and 6th. Golden Load was very unlucky. If you watch the race there, he probably was a clear second without getting any trouble when Franco Encore put the white flag up down the back. He was hemmed in and got dragged all the way back to last, and he flew home and still never got a run in the run to the line and just missed out running third. He ran a great 4th, and then you came along, sat 3 back the fence and found the line strongly to run 3rd. So I couldn't really, we had one of those dream runs, I guess, last week where we had 5 in the race, and generally you've got 1 or 2 of them that might not be eating or might have a little niggle, but we just had a trouble-free running with all the runners, and they performed accordingly on Friday night. Really we ran 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th with our runners, and couldn't be happier with them, really. And, looking forward to the future with really all of them.
Good to have Hardie by the Seaside back in the winners list there on Friday night as well.
Yeah, she made an uncharacteristic break at the last start, and Denny wasn't happy with the drive after that. She sort of missed away. She was probably 10 metres off the arm at release point, and probably in hindsight she would have just grabbed hold and sat her up and come with a run, but she elected to keep going forward. And the sections really, really hurt us, and to Steno's credit, it ran a great race. So we'll have a rematch with Steno this Friday night in the first of the Mares Classics, which will be interesting. But Hardie, she had a pretty soft run in front. She closed that out good, and they're all down the beach now as we speak. Actually, just down at Kwinana there. Wading along and doing their thing, but looking forward to her this Friday, and then a fortnight later there's the main Mares Classic for 150, and that'll be another rematch with Steno and others then as well. But couldn't be happier with her, so looking forward to the next fortnight.
It's a great time of year for harness racing, Bondi. A lot of the features in and around the corner at the moment, and certainly got plenty of the bases loaded. Must be great for yourself and Sky and all of the team to know that you've got key runners in most of the feature races, and it sounds like most of them are ticking along really well. Yeah, we had a sort of quieter, probably quite a 4 or 5 or 6 weeks and had all these Derby horses and the Pacing Cup horses and the Mares Classic horses, and then of course the Nugget coming up with Lou Sarker and potentially Hardie by the Seaside as well. We're doing a lot of work at home, getting them ready for that, and it was nice to see we ticked the box Friday night, and all the work that was done at home with the horses. We hit our target Friday night, and this Friday night is another challenge again, Shorty, with the Pacing Cup. That's going to be a tough one, but we will have Minstrel and Tenzing Bromack in that. That'll be a very hard race to win. Mr. Smarty looks like he's the testing material, but with different barriers, it brings other horses into it as well. And Captain Ravishing was exceptional Friday night. He adds another dimension to the race this Friday night. So it should be competitive. A lot of depth in the race, and hopefully we can play a part in the finish.
Bondi, we've got to get to news. Could talk to you all morning. Thanks for coming on the program. Good luck next week in the Pacing Cup.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye.
Cheers, Greg Bond. And don't forget that Pacing Cup field will be selected this morning, released later today, barrier draw tomorrow morning on the Sports Daily. Thanks.